Hi guys, welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite myths in Norse mythology, and I it has a very strong impact on me emotionally. I'm not quite sure why that is, but so anyway, I might get a little misty at some point during it, but no guarantees. Anyway. So we are going to be heading into Christmas here very soon. I don't know, what is today, the 15th, something like that. So we're, you know, 10 days away from the Christmas celebration. We've already passed the solstice, which is what Christmas is really supposed to be about. But I thought that I would talk about something holiday related because I've been doing all kinds of other stuff. So we are going to be talking about the myth, which is the origins of kissing under the mistletoe, at least according to my research. And we're going to be talking about mistletoe, we're going to be talking about sun gods, we're going to be talking about what the Christmas celebration is really trying to replace. And I won't get too deep into a bunch of other traditions because I'm not experts in those, but we will skim some of those. And of course, I will be happy to take some questions. So if you are here for the first time, please, the best way to communicate with me on this chat is to leave me a question and to put in all caps question, and then you can write in lower caps. Somebody actually wrote me a huge question in all caps because I had said that. So let me be clear. I want to communicate properly. On the Q&A here on the live, just put question in all caps and then normal. And then you can, message me normally. I'll be able to see that. Okay, so I'm going to, first I guess let's just go ahead and start a little bit with some introductions. And I want to be talking about what the solstice is, actually what the solstice is, what the spiritual significance of that is, what the symbolism of it is, and what I think is important to get out of it. Because Christianity made a mistake in terms of the resurrection that is also done nowadays. People even, there's a lot of heathens that seek to have the resurrection of Baldur, to bring Baldur out of the underworld. And this is a flawed assumption about what this means. It's taking things a little too literally. So let's talk about sun gods, because this is what this is. The winter solstice obviously is the day where you get the least amount of sun, and then from that day forward, from the winter solstice forward, the sun will shine for longer and longer periods until we get to the summer solstice again, and that will start to cut back. And so we can obviously understand the significance of this for, prehistoric and primitive peoples. Primitive, I say in quotes, because, the sun is important. And, if people, I live in Southern California, and right now it's amazing. Of course it's been horrible because we've had all the fires and all that. But, I was just walking along the beach, in my shorts and no shirt, and I don't even know what it is, but it's very warm, and the wind is calm, and the water is beautiful, and the waves are huge, and it's just, that's very nice. But it wasn't like that especially in Ice Age times, and it's not like that in northern latitudes. The farther north you go, when you get to that solstice period, you get almost no sun, and the sun barely pops up, and so you really want that sun to come back. So there's obviously, there must have been some spiritual desire to ritually coax the sun back up into the sky. But the sun represents the soul, the eternal soul. It represents your eternal soul. It's not talking about something outside of you. And so, as opposed to Christianity, where people are worshiping this deity that's outside of them and wanting him, and celebrating his resurrection and all of that, this is your resurrection. And as long as you are in the physical body, the sun is going to be in the underworld. And so the representation is that when the sun dives down into the underworld, and the fear of it, being lost, or the fear of it dying, that sense is our continuous experience of feeling separated from our soul, because we live in these meat bags. And these meat bags have this brain and this intellect, and we have all these physical drives. We have, an animal brain. We have literally a reptilian brain at the base of our brain, which gives us all of these instincts: fight or flight, eat, copulation, all that kind of stuff. And so we mourn the loss of being fully divine and being fully connected to our soul all the time, because when we're not incarnated in physical form, that's what it's like. We are connected to our eternal self, our spiritual self, and we have all the joy and the peace and the infinity and all of that. And so the mourning of the sun god going into the underworld is really us mourning the loss of our connection to our spiritual self. We long to be back to that. That's why people want to have immortality. That's why we do all kinds of things. That's why we, indulge in whatever it is, whether it's drugs or alcohol or video games or sex or, UFC or whatever the heck our addiction is. What we're really wanting to do is we want to go back to that experience of being a divine, infinite soul. And so that's why in a lot of religions you see this misunderstanding that comes out of wanting to pray for the resurrection of Jesus, or, in some cases I think there's some modern polytheist heathen sects that pray for the resurrection of Baldur to come out of the underworld. And it's a complete misunderstanding of what that's all about. So what I would like for you to focus on is that. Focus on that. What we're really talking about is your soul. This isn't a God that's outside of you. This is you. And so all of the mourning that takes place is the mourning that is done not only by us, but also by the gods. The gods mourn the loss of these bright, shining spirits. They rejoice because we who are human, and I don't care who you are, think of the worst person you can think of, whoever that person is, their soul had earned the right to become human. And it's an incredible privilege and opportunity. And I can tell you, not only from personal experience, but what I believe I've received from my meditations, is that one of the first things that happens when people pass is that they realize what their potential was as a human being. And then it becomes so important to them to not only help other people who are still here to be aware of that their soul nature, that their true essence is spiritual, is that they are a soul, they're a divine, eternal, omnipotent soul. But it's also to try and remember. The soul says, I want to remember this. I want to remember how important this is, and I want to go back. Again, this is why, when it comes to reincarnation is not a punishment. I mean, it's so, listen, I understand. I've gone through so much in my life, especially, earlier in my life. I went through so much, and I completely understand why somebody just wants out. Because they just want to check out. They don't want to do this anymore. It's too painful. They feel too victimized. So I get all of that. Even though I'm constantly, giving you the bitter medicine about drop the victim mentality. But I do understand. Anyway, I kind of forgot what I was saying. But the whole point is that, when we die, we go, man, I want to do this again. This is something that we choose to do, and it is such a tremendous opportunity and privilege. So that's why, being wrapped up in the victim mentality isn't helpful. I'm not saying to go into denial. I'm not saying going into the, the religious denial of everything is wonderful. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was a Christian, and any, current or former Christians will know what I'm talking about, especially fundamentalist Christians. You'll hear Christians say, I just know that we have a good God, and our God is good, and he is so good, and isn't God good? I just know that I know that I know that I know that I worship a good God. You never hear polytheists talk like that, especially ones that are secure. Like, you'll never hear a Hindu talk like that, ever. You'll never hear a religious Taoist. Taoists are polytheists. You'll never hear them do that. You'll never hear African polytheists do that. Never. Because there's no insecurity there. I know that our God is good. Like, they're just convincing themselves that God is good. I mean, it's obvious that, their experience of Jehovah is not so great because they wouldn't need to convince themselves, right? So I don't know how I got off on that, but I now remember. I'm not trying to say let's be in denial here. Everything is wonderful all the time. No, I of all people say you've got to be real with your feelings, and I've endeavored to be transparent with you guys, wherever I'm at, whatever's going on with me. And then, I've wept in front of you guys, and you see me, I get into flame wars with people on the YouTube comments. So I never try and hold back my humanity, and that means being honest about whatever pain and challenges you have. Anger, fear, sadness, mourning, depression, hopelessness. These are all normal human feelings. So I'm not saying to avoid that. But what I am saying is that there is nothing to be gained by buying into any victim mentality. So I would like for you to do that. I would like for you to ask yourself honestly. Because people also say, I'm not a victim. Well, be honest with yourself. Listen, listen, it takes one to know one. I've been there. Parts of me still want to go there sometimes, and I remind myself, what a privilege it is. And even if I'm not seeing in front of me, what a privilege it is, I know that indulging in useless anger, like just being resentful, that's just a waste of energy. Begging and pleading the universe to give me this or to give me that is a waste of energy. The universe, this is how the universe responds. The universe sees you as this infinite, omnipotent being, that you were such an amazing entity that you earned the right to be a human, and the universe and the spirits are running and going, these are the elites of the universe. Let's give them what they need in their adventures, their video game, their travel here on Earth. And so when you start going, please give me this, and why can't this? They go, what are they doing? What is wrong with them? We're here to serve you. What are you? It's confusing to them. So when you adopt an attitude of understanding that there is no victimhood on this planet, that whatever challenges you go through can be solved first and foremost by adopting an attitude of responsibility, not guilt. I'm not saying beat yourself up or feel guilty. I'm saying responsibility. I am responsible for everything in my existence. If I've created whatever your challenge is, if I've created this, then obviously I did it because I must have the means to get myself out of it. And I'm the only one that can get myself out of it, with help of being connected to the infinity of the universe, going with the flow, surrendering to the infinity of the universe. If I have that, I can get myself out of this. But when you adopt a victim mentality, like somebody's got it, in, whether you pick it, I won't go over it again. Jehovah, the government, the elite, archons. As soon as you buy into that, then you have basically accepted your limitations, and you've basically said that there's nothing that you can do to improve it, and so you get to continue to be there. And the universe is like, I'd be happy to help you, but you've already made the decision. It's like when people, when I work with students and they unilaterally make the decision to walk away from working with me, I'm not going to try and talk them into staying. If they asked for my help and said, I'm having a lot of struggles and I don't know if I can afford this and then I would say, okay, well, let's talk about what you can do to fix that. I'm here to help you with that. The universe is the same. The universe is like, we're here to help. What do you want? How can we help you? You got to follow your true path. You can't just go off and do something that's against your own essence. We're not going to help you with that. But as long as you're following what you're supposed to do, following your soul, we have infinite resources to make sure you have what you need. So it all starts with a change of attitude. And I know that sounds hokey and new agey, and I sound like a typical life coach, whatever. Not that I have anything against life coaches, but anyway, so we're going to talk about the myth of Baldur. I guess let's do that, because if there's anybody online, I might get into some questions, and I tend to get long-winded. But so let's go ahead and talk about the myth. According to my ancestral mythology, which is Scandinavian, you have this god whose name is Baldur. In English, his name would be Bold or Bald. I'm bald too. Bold, it means somebody who's fearless. It means fearlessness. And as you know, this is what I teach. What I teach is that you should live your life in such a way where you're constantly looking to take fearless action towards your soul. So Baldur is a perfect example for that, because that's his name. He was fearless. He was also very joyous, and he was very happy, and he shone like the sun, because he is a symbol of the sun in the sky, and the sun in the sky is a symbol of the human soul. So he represents the soul. In any case, there's Baldur. He's beloved by everything in the universe. He's beloved by all of the gods, and he is especially beloved by his mother Frigga. The name comes from the Indo-European word Frigga, which means beloved or love. It just means she loves. She loves everything. She's just the nurturing, loving essence of the mother goddess. And she loves the soul. Her most favorite son, it's clear, her favorite son is Baldur, the sun god, the soul. And so in order to protect him, because he's so important and so precious, she goes to every living being, every entity in the universe. She went to my cell phone, she went to my glasses, she went to this battery, she went to all the rocks and all the trees and all of the mountains and the sky and the birds and the animals and the gods and the troll. Went to every single entity in the universe and said, I want you to make a promise that you will never harm my son Baldur. And so she got that, because she is Queen of Heaven, after all. So she was able to get every entity in the universe to agree never to harm Baldur. So this made him invincible. That meant that didn't matter if you put a bazooka right at his chest, the explosion would implode and not touch him. The ball would come out and bounce off his chest. The bullets would bounce like Superman. Superman, by the way, is also a symbol of the sun, because that's where he gets his power. These myths don't die just because we forget them. They come out. So the myth of Superman, you can call it not just a comic book, but the myth of Superman. Same thing. We're talking about Baldur, talking about the soul, the sun. So anyway, so she gets everything to agree not to harm Baldur, except for one being, which is Mistletoe. And she says that because she doesn't believe that Mistletoe has the experience to be able to make a vow and know what it means. So she figures, listen, there's one thing, Mistletoe, we don't have to worry about. Mistletoe isn't going to try and destroy my son. We're good. And what's interesting is that mistletoe is a plant that is associated with healing. In fact, there's cancer treatments out there that are focused on mistletoe, injections of mistletoe serum and all that kind of stuff. So the Druids were very respectful of mistletoe, and there was a lot of worship of mistletoe with the Druids, and who knows what they did, but they had this whole thing connected to it. So mistletoe is very sacred and it's very healing. So the irony here is that this is the one being that now has the potential to kill Baldur. So the gods are in heaven and they're drinking their mead and they're celebrating, and they decide to have some fun. You know, they're starting to get a little tipsy. And so they decide to have some fun with Baldur, and they say, hey, Baldur, stand over there. I want to throw my axe at you. You know, so they throw their axes at him, and the axe goes flying off, bounces off of him, and he's standing there completely vulnerable, which is what the soul is. When we connect with ourselves on a spiritual level, it feels very vulnerable to us when we're in the physical, because it feels like we're no longer protected. This meat bag that protects us, we don't feel protected by it anymore. And so it represents that. But he, completely vulnerable to everything, makes himself vulnerable, stands there with his chest puffed out. And so they start throwing spears, and they start firing arrows at him, and they start throwing axes and swords and knives and kitchen tables and coffee mugs and, you know, horns of ale. They just throw whatever they have, because now they're having a great time. They're partying it up. Loki sees this, and he doesn't like it. Now, the average person, at least that I see, they see Loki as he's feeling left out, and he's miserable, and he's this really evil, horrible, you know, totally unrespectable person, and he doesn't like it, and he's jealous of all the attention. He doesn't like Baldur. That's not it at all. I'll explain to you what his real motivation was when we're all done. So he doesn't like what's happening here. And he disguises himself, and he goes and overhears Frigga. And she tells him that everything but mistletoe won't harm him, and that's why she's not worried. They can do whatever they want. She's not worried because, you know, only mistletoe is the only being that didn't agree to not harm Baldur. So Loki takes that information and goes to Baldur's brother Holder. Holder is blind, and he represents ignorance. This is an important lesson, extremely important lesson. Goes to ignorance and says, hey, how come you're not joining in on the fun? And Holder says, well, I'm blind, I can't see. And he says, tell you what, I will aim your arrow for you. And Holder says, oh, that sounds great, thank you very much. So Loki takes a bit of mistletoe and puts it on the end of the arrow. Some explanations of it, they say that they take a branch, but I've never seen a branch of mistletoe. So I'm not sure it's like this tree branch. I think it's, you know, mistletoe that's put on the end of an arrow. In any case, so that's on the end of the arrow, and then Loki, sure enough, he aims the arrow just right and says, okay, loose. And ignorance, Holder, lets go of the arrow, and it strikes Baldur and kills him. And then that starts the whole thing. Then the gods get very upset, and they chase Loki down, and they tie him down under the earth, and there's that whole thing. And so, you know, again, then we've got people who don't understand what the myth means, and they think, yeah, we got that bad, evil Loki, and we're going to give it to him now. We're going to torture him forever. Complete misunderstanding of what's happening there. Maybe we'll get into that, maybe we won't. In any case, the gods are bereft. Everything in the universe is bereft. They can't believe how horrible this is. And Frigga, who is love, and who loves nothing more than her son, the soul, the sun, her S-O-N, the S-U-N, Baldur, the brave. So she goes to Hela, the queen of the underworld, and Baldur is in the underworld now. And she goes to Hela, and she says, Hela, please, release my son to me. And Hela says, hey, you know the rules, I can't. You know, once they're here, you know, they got to go through certain steps to get out, and I just can't turn him over to you. But she says, you know what? Because you are Frigga, because you are the queen of the universe, I will make this one exception. If you can get every single being in the universe to weep for Baldur, I will give him back to you. So Frigga goes to all of the beings in the universe, my glasses, the battery, my phone, the rocks, the trees, the gods, the giants, the elves, every single living being, and gets them all to weep. Because, of course, the most important thing in the universe, and this is important for you to know because Baldur is your soul, the most important thing in the universe, the distilled essence of the source of the universe, is your soul. And everything weeps at the thought of the loss of your soul and the effect of your soul. There was one being that did not weep, and this being was called gratitude, thanks. His name translates, or she, it was a giantess. Her name translates as thanks, thok, gratitude. So Mother Frigga goes to the giantess Gratitude and says, you know, gives her the whole sob story about her son Baldur, and she says, nope, I don't feel like crying about that. And so she doesn't. Now, according to the myths that have survived, there's a little editorial note, which I'm not sure is part of the myth or if it's just, you know. But in any case, I think it's a valuable potential possibility, which is, it says that, and we think maybe this giantess was Loki in disguise. Now, let's just assume for argument's sake that that's true, that the original, in the original myth, it was Loki that said that. So we need to understand why Loki would do this. Loki is similar to Hela in that, you know, Hela has two sides. She is half corpse and half beautiful young bride. I don't know why that always comes to mind, bride, but she's this beautiful young woman, or she's this rotting corpse. And that represents when you pass away and you go to the underworld, whatever you are connected to, whatever you're attached to, whatever you're, you know, you didn't get to achieve that you really wanted and you're holding on to it and it's causing you all kinds of pain, that is actually holding on to something that has no life to it. It's dead. And so it rots. So you're holding on to something that's rotting. And so she reflects that back, and that's when you see her as a rotting corpse. But if you have released your attachment to the superficial that doesn't give strength to the soul, then you get to see her for what she truly is, which is this beautiful young woman. So Loki is like that as well. For those who are afraid of their insecurities, afraid of their jealousies, afraid of their, you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? Their greed. When anybody, this is why it's so important, for anybody who has any kind of victim mentality. Now, a lot of really tough warrior type people have victim mentalities. People who feel the need to walk around with a gun in public. I don't care whether you want to talk about whether it's your right or not. I don't care about that. You need to walk around with a gun in public. You've got some fear issues. You're afraid that there's somebody out there that's going to do something to you, and you need to be prepared to blow their head off at any point. So tough guys are some of the first people to hold on to this, and they'll see Loki as the devil. So Loki, what he will do, because he is the trickster, is that he wants you to actually achieve your highest awareness. He is more committed than any other being in the universe to your highest awareness. And so he knows the best way to do that is not by talking to you like I do about the virtues of following the truth of your soul. He knows that that doesn't mean anything. He knows that you're smart enough to come up with some cockamamie BS that will cover that over, and you can justify, you know, walking away from your true self. He knows that. He knows that you're smart enough to do that. So what he'll do is he'll look for the weak spots in you. You know, is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it money? Is it, you know, is it whatever it is? Whatever it is that you think you need because you don't trust the infinity within you. Like Baldur, you don't have that ability to know that you are infinite and that your You are actually invincible. When you are in that state, you are invincible. And I can give you some stories that I won't go into it, but I can tell you from personal experience, you know, and some of the stuff I've trained in. When you get into this place of complete surrender to the infinity within you, I'm telling you, nothing can harm you. I've been with people who were trying to fight with me and spar with me, and I went into that place and I didn't do anything, and I remember them coming at me, and then I remember them behind me. And they're like, how the hell did you do that? I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just didn't resist you. So resistance is what, you know, when you resist something, you first have to fear something. When you fear something, then you resist it. When you resist it, then you give somebody something to use to control you. A good example is Aikido. Now, one of the things that the MMA guys will say, which I completely agree with, is that Aikido will not work in a fist fight on the street, because it's not. It's descended from martial arts with people using staves and swords, and so you come at people with these big swinging chops. Now, when you come at somebody with a big swinging chop, there's this big arm, and there's all this force coming at you, and then you can grab and flip and redirect and all that kind of stuff. But that won't work in a fist fight. Another one is jiu-jitsu. I got a friend of mine who's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, goes all over the world. In fact, that was the guy who did that. He came at me and I didn't resist him, and then he was on the other side and he said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "I didn't do anything." But I learned from him, because I used to, you know, get on the ground and wrestle with him. And what he waits for is he waits for you to overcommit in some way. You put your arm out here, or you do something where you give him something, and it's always because you're overcommitting, trying to accomplish something. And then he says, "Thank you." He'll do that, say, "Thank you," and then he'll grab you and put you into some. So this is what Loki is doing. He's waiting for you to overcommit out of some kind of a fear that you're not getting enough, and then he uses it against you. And it, you know, it hurts. It's painful. But once you make that mistake, you never make that mistake again. And so this is what Loki was doing when he's sitting there in the, I was going to say the Oval Office, when he's sitting there in Asgard with all of the gods, and he sees them taking, you know, drunken pride in the invincibility of the soul. He sees that they have denigrated, that they are not respecting how precious the soul is. They're taking it for granted, which is what we do. We take our soul for granted, and then we get wrapped up in all kinds of other stuff. And he sees that, and that does bother him a lot. So he's going to teach the gods a lesson. And he knows what this means. He knows that this will make him persona non grata forever, because there's nothing that the gods love more than the soul, because the gods, especially the Aesir, are the celestial deities. They are stars. So they appreciate the soul. The soul is the sun. We are stellar beings. Human souls are stellar beings. So we are, you know, the gods, when they see us in our pure form, they worship us. They see us as the most amazing thing. So Loki is seeing that the gods do not appreciate what they have. So he's going to make them understand that. So that's why when all is said and done, and Frigga goes and asks for gratitude to cry, gratitude says, "No, I'm not going to cry, because when he was here, I appreciated him. I never took him for granted. So I have nothing to cry over." One could go one step further, which is to say that because I never took him for granted, I'm still connected to him. So why should I cry? We have to cry. And so we cry because we are disconnected. And this is what happens when we lose people. You know, I've obviously just lost somebody. You guys know all about that. And, you know, now that I'm coming out of it more and more, I'm realizing that I have this really great opportunity to see her, you know, in her new form, and to really appreciate that and celebrate that for her. I am sad for myself on a selfish note, because I can't see or hear or feel her in that human way. And so it's sad for me. But, you know, if you can be grateful, and that's why it's so important. Here's one of the biggest lessons. Please, please do not take anybody in your life for granted. If you have people in your life that you care about, spend time with them, and when you're with them, make an effort to connect with them and enjoy them. I was lucky enough that I had that. I knew that there was a good chance that I was going to lose my fiance. I knew that for a while. I knew that when I met her. And so we made a commitment to make sure that whenever we were together, that all we did was just completely enjoy our time. We didn't spend any time doing things we didn't want to do. We didn't waste any time, fighting or doing. We connected as deeply as we could, because we knew this might be our last time together. We knew that the whole time. So I was kind of lucky in that. But I can also tell you that it makes a big difference in whatever your relationships are. So, anyway, that's the story. We're going to talk about that. I guess what I find ironic about it is that mistletoe is a healing plant. It's a plant used for healing. And Loki chose that plant to send an ironic message. And I also believe that I had something else I wanted to say. I forgot what it was. Anyway, maybe it'll come to me. But that's just really ironic that mistletoe is healing, and he very artfully used that to create a point. Oh, I was going to talk about the kissing. So now you know why we kiss under the mistletoe, because the mistletoe was a healing plant that was used to cause the death of Baldur, and Frigga, because she is who she is. She is a goddess after all, so she's not going to get wrapped up in feeling sorry for herself. So what she does is she spreads the love. I heard today I read something that I thought was pretty cool, that in Scandinavia there was a custom that if two people were fighting with each other, that if they happened to walk under mistletoe, they actually had to put their arms down and walk away for that whole day. They couldn't fight for a day. And of course, the lesson is, if you have a day to think about it, and you're going to think about Baldur, and you're going to think about Frigga, and all that, you're probably going to go back and try and work things out. You don't have to kill each other over it. You can actually come to some resolution. But that's why we kiss under the mistletoe, because Frigga is the goddess. She's the queen of heaven, but she's also the goddess of love. And so she wants to take that one mistake. She didn't get mistletoe to promise not to hurt her son. And so she's going to use mistletoe as a symbol. And so that's why we do all the kissing and all that kind of stuff, is to represent love. So, in any case, that's where the custom of kissing under the mistletoe comes from. So, I will go ahead and take a little bit of a break here, and we will take any questions if there are any. Just know that on here there's something missing. It's astrology.thunderwizard.com. So on here the dot is missing. So we'll take some little break. I'll be back in a couple of minutes, and then we'll take some questions. Okay, guys, welcome back. All right, so I think we do have some questions here. I may have gotten my dates off for the solstice. I think I got mixed up because we had the super moon, solstice super moon, so maybe I got my dates wrong on that. Any case, all right, so hello to everybody. There's Natalia, hello, Free Willy, Lindsay, True, hello, Ramnian, Germany. Okay, I see some question here. Natalia Lokia says, glad tidings, teacher. Question, do you know much about, I think that's Yule. You spelling it that way? You mean Yule, like Yuletide? Yule vows or vows taken at Yule time? Is this the origin of the New Year's resolution? It's a good question. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not aware of any of that. I'd love to hear if anybody does know about that. I have not taken any such vows, New Year's resolution vows. I have not, and I don't know that I have a good reason why I haven't done that. I think because I'm in such a huge stretch of change right now. It's just every single day is like I'm walking into emptiness trying to figure out who the heck I am and what's going on. So I'm just not in that space to do that. You know, I do take vows a lot. The kind of vows that people do like that would be similar to New Year's resolutions. I do them pretty much all the time, and I think I did one the other day, whereas I will take a sort of a mental inventory of what's unacceptable to me in my life. Like right now, you know, I've got an injured leg, and so I can't surf, and that's bothersome to me. And I'm just coming out of this deep, intense mourning period. I'm still mourning, of course, but I'm sort of waking up enough to realize that, hey, I want to get back to where I was physically. I want to be doing what I was doing, you know, a couple of years ago when I was surfing all the time and I was in really good shape. And, you know, so many things have happened, and I've had, you know, physical things and operations, so I'm not in the same kind of shape that I was in. And so I just made the decision I want to get back to that. And the point of that is that, you know, this could be the same for when you're not where you're at career-wise or money-wise or, you know, whatever it is. The way I work is that when I get to that place and I can see that I'm not where I want to be, then I make a decision. It's a decision that I make that either I'm just simply not going to tolerate some limitation in my life, or there's something that I want and I say, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have this. And I spell it out. And then I tell it to the universe. And that's how I do it. I say, listen, this is unacceptable to me. I am going to have this. I'm not demanding. I don't say, you're going to give me this. I say, I am going to have this for myself. I'm going to do it. That's it. And when I get to that place where I make that decision and I make it and there's no turning back, then it's like a steel trap that's shut, and that's it. End of discussion. And when I'm able to get to that place, I know it will happen. So I did that the other day. Maybe it was yesterday. I was walking along the beach and I was looking at the waves are enormous, and I'm like, wow, you know, that's a lot of work. Big waves are a lot of work. You got to work really hard, and it's the paddling. It just takes a lot of lung power. And I know that if I tried to do that, I would be huffing and puffing pretty intensely. So I decided that I was going to be back in my prime physical condition. And so that means that my leg is going to heal and everything is going to heal. And I'm going to heal emotionally. You know, I've been distracted for the past year at least. You know, just completely distracted because of, you know, personally what happened with me. And now that that's no longer an issue, I'm really focused on my healing. And, you know, I refuse not to have everything. I am committed to having the absolute everything that I want in my life. And that means, even though I'm 54, I am determined to be of Olympic athlete health and physicality. And so if I make the commitment like that, I'll end up having it. So anyway, I don't do New Year's resolutions like that, but I do make those kind of vows quite regularly. All right, so let's see if there's any other questions here. Yeah, Ramadan, Germany may be right. Something about that past moon, full moon solstice, I got it kind of mixed up there. Anyway. Question. What exactly is a god? It's a really intellectual question. And I'm kind of wondering what it is that you would like me. How could I possibly answer that? So I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you what I believe. You know, we have multiple types of spirits. In Western world, we call them gods. But that now has become a generalized term for spiritual entities of all kinds, usually powerful spiritual entities. We call them gods. But we have at least two types of deities. We have celestial deities, which my ancestors called the Os, the Aesir. And we have terrestrial deities, deities that live within time and space. And these we call the Wanes, which, by the way, the word Wane in English is the exact pronunciation of the Latin word for the planet Venus, Venus. The US is just the nominative ending for the word. It means the exact same pronunciation, Wayne. The Vanir, the gods of fertility, the gods who live in time and space, the gods who are all about pleasure and happiness and earthly things. And the Aesir are the timeless gods who live in timelessness, as close to timelessness as possible. They are the celestial deities. And they are at war with the Vanir, and we say war in quotes because they really kind of don't have that kind of a war, but it's because the celestial deities, their nature is such that they do not want to be tainted by time and space. And so they are in that kind of opposition. So they show a balance in terms of that. You see that in the Vedic tradition as well with the Devis and the Asuras. I won't get into that, what the names really mean there, but it's the same thing. The Devis are the celestial deities and the Asuras are the physical deities of magic and fertility. They're looked upon negatively, but they're really not demons. You translate Asura as demon, and that's not what it really means. Anyway, that's a whole other subject. So again, I don't know that I can answer that question, and I'm kind of wondering why you have that. It gives me the feeling, I don't know you, but it gives me the feeling that you're young and that you're really trapped in your intellect. Because the intellect likes to ask those kinds of questions. But again, I don't know you. How to be a nonconformist. The best way to get my attention, again, put question. I caught this, and I see it's a question here, but you're probably new to my channel. Make sure that I see that it's a question. Do you believe there are soulless ones in this matrix? No. What did I just get through saying about victims? A victim believes that there are soulless people walking around, they're bots. That comes from that fear-based nonsense, so please get rid of it. A lot of YouTubers, you know, that's how Donald Trump talks. A lot of people say, right? So the truth for some people, you know, somebody responded to one of my YouTube videos and asked, why should I believe you as opposed to all of the other people who say something different? And my response to that person was, oh, so what you're saying is that something is true based upon how many people believe it. And then I made some kind of comment about think for yourself. So what you're really looking for is you just want to be part of the crowd, and you want to find how many people believe what so that you can be part of that crowd. And there are some people, like I believe Donald Trump is one of them, who are constitutionally incapable of understanding objective truth. And truth to them is about how many people think something. So he'll say, many people believe this, or many people believe that. Like, I forget what it was. This was early on in his presidency. He made some statement as fact, and somebody pointed out that that was actually wrong. And he said, well, many people have said that, as though that somehow justifies it. So, you know, 1 and 100 have a lot of YouTubers say, who cares? I mean, are you that and I mean this honestly, are you that disconnected from your own ability to sense truth that you can't make a decision unless you see a certain, you want to see who, the majority of what people believe? I mean, do you not have the ability within yourself to intuitively know what truth is? And I'm not saying this to put you down. It's an honest question. And it's an honest question because I believe there are a lot of people out there like that. This is the result of Christianity. Christianity came with this belief system that did not line up with common sense. And in fact, in Christianity, they will tell you the ways of God are, lunacy to the average. What they're saying is, don't listen to your common sense. Listen to us with our crazy thing that we're telling you that makes no sense and that your instincts tell you can't be true. So, why do you care what I think? Why do you care what they think? And why are you unable to listen to yourself and know what the truth is? I'm not asking for a response. That's for you to meditate on. That's for you to meditate on. Okay. All right, so let's see. Natalia Loki, a question. The giantess gratitude who does not weep for Baldur. Could this not be because the universe were not grateful for the soul? They were abusing the privilege, throwing weapons, etc. Well, yeah, that could be it. My take is that I think that Loki really did value the soul. I mean, I think he valued it. I think it really, really bothered him to see. I think it maybe was very saddening for him to see the gods disrespecting the soul like that. Even though the soul could take it, it's the fact that it was like they were mocking the soul, and that I think really disturbed him deeply. I think it hurt him. I think his motivation for doing all this was to, that they would weep. You should be weeping. You should care. So, and the point is if gratitude had wept, which of course gratitude can't by nature, gratitude doesn't weep for something it's already experienced. But had he done that and then Frigga got what she wanted, the gods wouldn't have learned anything. But guess what? They are now eternally separated from him. And every day, this is what we do. I believe this is symbolic of us. We wake up every day and we feel that. Some of us more than others. We feel that disconnection, that distance from true spirit. And it's very saddening. And I think that's why a lot of people feel a lot of sadness, because they can't connect to their soul. So I'm not sure I understood your question there, but yeah, they were abusing the privilege, throwing weapons, etc. But I think also because he's saying, that I think Loki is saying that he himself is saying, I fully, totally appreciated him. I fully, totally appreciated him. And he is so special to me that I bonded with him, and so I don't weep for that. You weep for something that you weep for something when you don't fully experience the potential of it. Like what I said earlier, I gave out this this appeal to people to please make sure that you appreciate the people in your life, because you never know. You never know when you're going to lose them. Make sure that when you say goodbye to your friend or to your lover, to whoever you're with, that you can say to yourself, I have nothing left to say to this person. So tell people how you feel about them. It's really important that you do that for your own sake. Because what could happen? Something could happen and then they'd be gone and you'll go, I never told them how I really felt. I'll share another experience. I've shared this before. It was such an impactful experience in my life. This was way back in college when I was in Bible school at Biola University, and I took things very seriously. I was world this and the devil and everything was a big deal. And I would spend a lot of time in the library, and I actually enjoyed those times because I read a ton of history in there. And I would read history and I would get so wrapped up in the state of the human experience, and I would come out of the library just looking at the ground, thinking very deeply about whatever it was. And so one of these days I'm doing that, and I'm walking out, and I see these shoes come up in front of me and stop, and so I have to look up, and here's this guy. His name was Chaki, was his name, and he was from some North African country. I forget which one it was. If I remember it, I'll say it. He was from North Africa, and he was there, he was a Christian, and he was there studying. And I look up and I see his bright, smiling face looking right at me, just beaming at me, and he says, in my country where we come from, we tell people how we feel about them. And he says, I see that you are a good man. And he said it with such, such truth and such honesty and such, it's just something we don't have in Western society. We don't have that, and he just came and he was so clear and almost forceful with it. And it just knocked me back. And he said, that's all. I just want to make sure that you knew that, because that's what we do in my hometown or in my village or whatever. That's what we do. We make sure that we always know that people know how we feel, and I needed to tell you that. And then he just walked away. And I stood there for a little bit, shocked, and then I started weeping. Nobody in my life had ever talked to me like that before. Nobody had ever talked to me with such truth and with such connection and with such conviction and with such love. But he walked away from me, and if I died that night, he would not have said to himself, gosh, I really wish I had told Mike what. He would never have thought that. So in that sense, he might have mourned, but he wouldn't have mourned the way everybody else would have mourned. I never got to know him. I never spent enough time with him, and oh, we've missed him, and he's gone out of this world. He can say, I connected with him. He connected with me more deeply than anybody had in my entire life at that point. So I think that's where Loki was coming from. You guys don't appreciate what you have. And I think that's the message. We need to appreciate everybody. We need to tell people, especially if we have love in our hearts for them. We have to tell them. For our sake, we have to tell them. So anyway, I hope I answered your question there, Natalia. All right, let me see what's going on here. Got to scroll down, see how much more we've got here. Okay, so Warhammer, again, please. I almost missed your question. Put question so I can see it if you're new. Otherwise, I won't know. Again, for those of you who are not live watching this, I'm not saying to put your questions in all caps in the YouTube comments, just in the live Q&A. He says, hello, speaking about loved ones who died, what is the chance they can reincarnation if a family member is pregnant and was present? I don't know what do you want me to give you, a 20%? There's a 20% chance. I have no idea. I don't know. Could you talk about karma and reincarnation? Yeah, well, I would like to talk about that. That is something I have spent a lot. You'd be better served going onto my channel and looking for my videos. If you're new to this channel, here's what I'd like for you to do. When you are not watching this, go back to my channel, my actual channel page. And at the top you have the big search bar. You can put it and search all of YouTube. Right where it says things like, videos and playlists and all that menu, there's going to be a little magnifying glass. Click on that and type in karma, reincarnation, in my videos. And you'll see all of my videos that come up and I talk in depth. I have videos that are just focused on that. So please go and do that. All right, so Maricel Villanueva, question. How do you let go of resistance and judgment? Gosh, you guys are asking me these really simple questions. I mean, that's a huge question. How do you let go of resistance? Well, first understand that resistance happens whether you like it or not. And so you can't escape it. You have to acknowledge it. So I don't want you to focus on letting go of resistance. What I want you to focus on is acknowledging the resistance that you have, and to ask yourself, why are you resisting? So understand that resistance is happening all the time, especially on an unconscious level. So you're not going to be aware of it. But this is why I teach the, you know, first off, starting off with the mindset of being responsible for your life and letting go of victim mentality. This is what all of the Chi Gong and the meditation is about. It is about aligning your three selves so that you will become more conscious of what's going on in your unconscious mind. Having said that, the tool to overcome resistance, if you will, is to not try and get rid of your resistant feelings. I'll give you an example. I was talking with an apprentice who was getting ready to start her, you know, her own certain kind of career in business, and we'd been talking about that. And she was saying that she didn't feel ready and she wasn't this, and she, you know, and I related because, you know, listen, every single time before I pick up that phone and take a call from an apprentice or from a client, the moment before I click, you know, go on the video for the Q&A, I am full of doubt. I'm thinking this is going to be it. I'm not going to be able to do it. Or the phone rings. Oh, they're gonna call me to tell me that they're leaving. They don't want to be my student anymore. I go through the same resistance all you guys do. I go through all the same doubts you do. One of the differences is that I've learned how to take action regardless of how I'm feeling. I know what actions I need to take, and I trust the universe is going to be there and give me the whatever it is I need to be able to be, you know, able to talk to a client or do the video or whatever it is. So the way that you overcome resistance is to stop worrying about the resistance, focus on what it is you know that you need to do, and take the action to do it regardless of how you feel. Mike Tyson, you know, world champion boxer, world heavyweight boxer. Every time before he went into a fight, he was scared to death. He was scared he was going to lose. But he went in and fought, and he won for a very long time. So, you know, that's the thing to do, is to take action regardless of how you're feeling. But in order to do that, you have to know what it is your soul desire truly is, what it is you're aligned with. And that's a whole other subject. Go and type in the videos for this book here, the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I've got a whole playlist on that, which is all about learning how to connect to that and know what that is. So that's all you need to do. You don't need to, you know, all that. This is one of the problems with modern psychotherapy, which by the way, I am fully in favor of therapy, psychotherapy, psychology, psychologists. I think they're invaluable. I've learned a lot from them. But one of the problems when you get really, you know, when people aren't given a program of action, what ends up happening is that there's this assumption that, well, if we just become aware of what's in our unconscious, it'll fix itself, and that's just not true. You have to know what's going on in your unconscious, but then you have to take action, otherwise it doesn't change. So your resistance is a result of some faulty programming in here, and or you may not know what your true soul desire is. And so your unconscious is resisting that because that's what it's designed to do, and that's a whole other thing. So take action. I'll tell you this, my greatest teacher was my brother. My brother's 5 years older than me. He used to pick on me throughout when I was growing up. He used to beat me up and harassed me, and, you know, made my life a living hell. He's the most miserable person I ever know. I haven't seen him in the past few years, so maybe he's wonderful now and happy, but last time I saw him, easily the most miserable person I'd ever met, and his life was a total wreck. And I didn't have any, you know, I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't have any pity for him because I've watched him for 50 years. So I knew that he had created all of his problems. I watched him do it. Now, I know that he and I were born in the same family, so we think the same. So whenever I'm in fear, whenever I'm like feeling like a victim, whenever I go through that and I can hear myself talking and sounding like my brother, I ask myself, what would my brother do in this situation? And then I listen to what I think my brother would say, and then I do the exact opposite. And it's usually going to be very scary for me because it would be much easier to do what he's doing. So learn to take those scary risks and learn that it doesn't matter how you feel. The only thing that matters is the actions that you take. Okay? All right, so let me see. All right, so those are all the questions for right now. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and yeah, I'll take any questions about anything. Yeah, we'll see what comes up. So let's take another little break, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. So I do have something more that I'd like to say, but maybe you've got some questions, and if so, I'll answer them, and if not, I'll move on. I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna launch into something else here. Okay, so, all right, now let's talk about resurrection, because this is a big theme in religions having to do with the sun god descending into the underworld. So the obvious physical connection to that would be when the sun hits the solstice and the sun goes, the longest night of the year, and people are praying that the soul comes back, and there's beliefs that the soul is fighting for its life, and defeats death and all those kinds of things in the underworld. And then the sun rises and we clap and yay, because we know then each day is going to get longer and longer and longer. So, obviously that has a lot of symbolic reference to us overcoming exactly what the person just asked, overcoming our own unconscious resistance, and rising above that. So we have the death and resurrection. So the Christian myth is obviously taken from that same playbook there, where instead of it being a mythological religion, and bear in mind, just because I say something is mythological doesn't mean that you can't believe it, and it doesn't mean that you can't take it very seriously. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that when you go through ritualistic ceremony having to do with that, and you get emotionally wrapped up into the god of the sun is dying and we need to pray for his soul to come back. And then when the soul, you clap and you cry and all that, that doesn't mean that you're an idiot. And it doesn't take away any of its power. In fact, it might even be more powerful. Just because it's symbolic doesn't take away the reality of what happens on the shamanic level. And this is the sad thing about Christianity. Christianity, up until that time, was the most literal religion that the world had ever known. And it came in and it took all of these mythologies that everybody in the Roman world, you know, Mithras and Horus and, you know, there's all kinds of other mythologies. You know, of course, Baldur is one of them. There was all these mythologies and people really believed in them, and so the Roman Empire needed something that would unify all of them. And of course, Christianity was the first religion of its kind to have such sweeping power to say this is the only religion. Not only, you know, it's not just like if you don't follow this religion you can't be a Roman. It's if you don't follow this religion you will burn forever in the underworld of punishment. I won't even use the word hell because that's not what hell means. You know, it's not like if you don't believe it will burn you to the stake. It's like, no, you look for the one thing that is the most sweeping and the most powerful, which is your eternal life. So we'll just take away your eternal life. Not only that, but we'll put this guy, we'll call him the Pope, and we'll give him all authority over humans, and he can make the decision whether or not you'll go to heaven or not, because he'll say you're excommunicated from the church, therefore you don't have the blessings. You know, I mean, you can't get more controlling than that. And so that takes away so much power, because to make it literal, it's then stuck in the conscious mind, in the intellect, and it's just intellectual. And you still have it today. People become Christians. In order to become a Christian, you have to make a statement of faith. You have to make the statement that you are sinful and that you are asking for God to repent. You have to, you know, assume that you're going to be punished in eternal torment for being of the wrong religion. And then you have to choose to have the right religion. And then you have to ask Jesus to come into your heart. And then you have to believe that he died on the cross and was raised from the dead after 3 days. It's very clear. You have to believe that. So, you know, whenever a Christian says, oh, this is not a religion, there's no requirement, they are most likely completely clueless about what the fact that their religion has rules and regulations. Just the one that says you have to believe a certain way is a rule. That makes it a religion. And if you don't follow the rule, you can't get in the club. So, you know, mythological religions don't have that, but they retain all of their power. And this is why, again, if you get a reading from me, I'll explain to you why it's so important to do your ritual, and why, you know, the whole point of my Vedic astrological reading is to find the ritual that you are designed to do based on your chart. Because your chart will tell me. Your chart will tell me how the one planet that really wants to help you follow your path, that's, you know, different for everybody, and exactly how that planet and the deities associated with that planet want you to worship them. You know, the way that Mars wants me to worship Mars deities is going to be different from most of you. Some of you it might be the same, but for most people it's going to be different. And that is really what's most important. Our unconscious mind really runs the show, and our unconscious mind lives in a reality that's a mythological reality. It doesn't live in a literal reality. There are so many other worlds out there, so many other realities. That's why we have this 9 world of the world tree. And we live in one of them. It's called Midgard. All the other worlds intersect, but we live in this world of Midgard, which, you know, is run by literal black and white. But if you look at it in terms of the universe as a holographic projection, Midgard is the screen where that projection is put. So it's 2-dimensional, but it's coming from this multi-dimensional plane of existence. And so our doorway to that multidimensional plane of existence is our unconscious mind. The way to tap into our unconscious mind is through ceremony and ritual and mythology and symbolism. That's why I can say to you in the same breath that I firmly believe that Jesus was not a physical human being. He never existed physically. And at the same time, I can tell you that Odin told me that Jesus was a coward, meaning that Odin is living on this other realm of existence where Jesus does exist. He doesn't care whether or not Jesus literally existed or not. He's talking about this reality of this entity that we call Jesus. So things exist, and there's more to this world than what we can literally parse out of it. That's why I hammer on people to get out of their intellect. It's just a way, it's, the intellect is here to help us learn how to drive a car and write a note and use a computer and, how to wipe your butt. It's here to help you in this literal black and white world. That's its only job. It can't help you in these other realms. It doesn't even know those realms exist. It's like talking to somebody who only lives in a two-dimensional world and you start talking about a third dimension. They can't even begin to understand it. They don't know anything beyond it. That's why I say, to people who believe in the flat earth, people who believe that they are held captive on a flat earth, I say for you the world is flat because you're living in a two-dimensional existence. And I can prove to you, I can give you proof that the world is round, but it won't matter because you literally can't see beyond this two-dimensional plane that you live in. Can't do it. That's what the intellect does. The intellect stays in this two-dimensional realm and can't see beyond it. And so point is, that's why mythological religions are so important. So important for our health, our emotional health, our psychological health, our physical health. So important. Okay. Anyway, I think I said enough about that. Thank you for that question, whatever it was. Let's see. All right. So let's see if there are any questions. Michael Johnson is letting me know there's a question. Thank you, sir. What is your perspective on soul loss, soul retrieval? Could the myth of Baldur's death be a metaphor for this? Well, sure it is, because we're talking about, mythological religions, and so we're talking about things that are a holographic nature. So one of the great ways to give an analogy of a holographic nature is, take a crystal. When I was a kid, we had one of those big crystal chandeliers, and I used to look at the crystal, and it had all the facets in it. So, and I would put my eye up to one of the facets, and then I'd see all the other facets shining in, and I could see a picture here and a picture here and a picture here, right? And that's what the deities are, by the way. If somebody's worried about, is there one God or many gods? And this is why a Hindu can say, is there one God? Yeah. Are there many gods? Yeah. How can they both be true? Because they are. You look through a gemstone, you'll see multiple facets, but you're only looking through one facet of the gemstone. You're looking through the entire gemstone, but light's hitting it, and as light hits a prism, it breaks up into multiple colors. So do I think that the myth of Baldur is a metaphor for this? Sure. Soul retrieval is, again, we're talking about symbolism. So I firmly believe in soul retrieval, and I firmly believe in the methods of soul retrieval. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say. There are so many people out there who have, and for thousands of years, have been healed through this process of soul retrieval. But what is soul retrieval to me? To me, soul retrieval is nothing more than aligning yourself with your soul purpose. Your soul knows what it wants. It knows what gives it the greatest joy. When you make choices based out of fear that take you out of alignment with your soul desire, guess what happens? Your soul gets lost. So whether or not you experience that the soul is 1,000 miles away under a tree and you're going to retrieve it and bring it back to somebody, doesn't matter to me. That can still be true, And it can still be the fact that the soul is inside of you, but you have separated yourself from it. So of course it could be a myth of soul retrieval. So my perspective on soul loss, soul retrieval is just that. That is one method, and that is one way to look at it. And because of the symbolism in it, that gives the unconscious mind power. The unconscious mind uses symbolism. That's the way to really get the unconscious mind really churning. And the unconscious mind creates everything. So if you want to change your world, you've first got to be able to have alignment and be able to have your unconscious mind work for you, decide to work for you. It's like having a trained grizzly bear. You know, that grizzly bear could demolish you at any second. With a swipe of its hand, if it decided it was going to take you out, there's nothing you can do to stop it. But if you get it when it's a cub and you train it and you get it bonded to you so that it wants to please you, then you can put that grizzly bear in a circus show and make it dance on a ball or whatever the heck it does. Not that you should treat your unconscious like a circus bear, but your unconscious is huge and it can gobble you up and destroy you. It is far more powerful than you are when you're in this physical form. But it wants to please you, but you have to be in line with your soul. You have to be in line with your soul desire. And I know there's a lot of people going, well, what is my soul desire? How do I know how to do that? Again, go back and watch the videos on the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life and get the book and keep talking to me and work with me and keep listening to videos, and maybe we together will figure out how to do that. Tansi Castellane, you may be new to my channel, or perhaps you haven't watched a lot of my videos. You're asking me, again, it's nice if you let me know that you're asking a question. I almost missed it. Do you think the reptilians, Moon, Saturn, reason of your hard life because you are against they? No. Reptilians live in your reptilian brainstem. You create them. Reptilians can't do anything to me. They can't do anything to you. If you have the experience that reptilians are doing things to you, it's because you have released them into your reality to do just that. When you're ready to take full responsibility, then you can take, I don't want to say control over them, you can, take your rightful place as the God in flesh, the infinite being that you are. And then the reptilians are not an issue anymore. Are there certain characteristics, people that were born while a solstice? Yeah, there are. I was born under a new moon, and I have moon in my first house, which means that I leak energy, which means that I get very, maybe you don't know me because you see my Aruda, my reflection, which is a spiritual warrior. But I get very easily depressed. I get very easily despondent. I get very easily hopeless, sad. That's something that happens to me without even trying. Because I have moon in my first house, which means my physical body, if I don't move physically, if I don't exercise and do expressive things like surfing and yoga and martial arts and Tai Chi and other kinds of stuff, my emotions, my moon gets very unhappy. So I have to do that to stay balanced. That's why I teach Chi Gong. I teach Chi Gong because I needed it in order to survive. I needed that energy. So yeah, all the, solstice and, wherever somebody is, all that stuff has an effect. So of course it does. I can't tell you what it is because I'd need to look at somebody's chart. And that, quite frankly, I'd have to look that up to see what a solstice means or does. I don't have the answer to that. Question. Father passed away 2 years ago. I never hold my dad and told him I loved him. We didn't see eye to eye. I was young. There are days I regret I didn't do that and cry. How do I heal this? You just said you cry. That's your loss. It's not his loss. It's your loss. He's not, wherever he is, he's not going, my son never told me he loved me. He's not worried about that. He sees you, assuming he's still in the spirit realm and he's not back in the body. then he sees you from his infinite perspective, so he doesn't hold anything against you. I can give you a personal experience from my end. You know, my dad was an alcoholic, and he drank himself to death, and he and I didn't see eye to eye either. Now, I didn't feel the need to hold my dad and tell him I loved him. I did tell him, and he knew, and I don't feel like I had anything left to say. But I was very angry with him. You know, and the thing about death is that, you know, when somebody's alive, especially if they're old or especially if they're sick, it's hard to be angry with them because, you know, you feel like you're killing them when you're angry. This is why little kids, you know, this is the whole Stockholm syndrome. The Stockholm syndrome is that you become bonded with your captors and you believe that they are there, you know, you are dependent upon them, and then you end up taking a child's relationship to them. And children worship their parents regardless of how horrible they are because they need them in order to survive. And so when children feel angry with their parents, they feel as though they're actually killing them, and they can't tolerate that. So then that's when they justify and they drive it in, and they turn the anger towards themselves. And this is what creates neurosis, is we turn our anger towards whatever it is we're angry at in our outside world, and we turn it on ourselves. And this is what causes neurosis and a lot of illness and other things. So anyways, you know, when my dad was alive and he was sick, and it was, you know, it was hard for me to have all of my anger and resentment that I had towards him, and then he died, and then I was able to feel it more and more, how angry I was at him and for, you know, not being the perfect dad, and I learned to forgive him and let go of all that and realize that my resentments were not helpful to me in that way. But one of the things that happens, and it hasn't been for a long time, but I would have dreams about my father. And what's interesting is that as time went on, every time I saw him in a dream, he'd get younger. So I think one of the first dreams I had of him was in the dream, it couldn't have been more than a year after his death, and I was in my 30s. And I was in my dream hanging out with my friends and watching TV, and there was a knock on the door, and my dad walks in. And, you know, lots of times in dreams you can't tell what's going on. You don't know the difference, you know, where you are. But something in me woke up and I went, I must be dreaming because he's dead. And then I walked up to him and I said, what are you doing here? What are you here to tell me? And I was very angry with him. And he didn't do anything. He just stood there. And that infuriated me because he wouldn't say anything to me. So I don't remember what happened after that, but at some point in the dream, I grabbed my dad, you know, and he was like dying of cancer. He was like frail. And so here he is, he's standing in front of me, and I grab him, and I do one of those things like, you know, where you take somebody on the bar and you knock off and I drug him across the table, and I just started wailing on him, bam, bam. And he just stood there, and his head flying back like this, you know, because as I'm hitting him, and he's just standing there with no expression on his face. And then I woke up. You know, I woke up in the midst of, you know, trying to beat the crap out of my dad. In the dream, in case anybody's listening, this was a dream. And I woke up and I felt so guilty. Oh my God, I felt so guilty. I just beat up my dad who died of cancer. Oh my God. And then I stopped and I said, okay, wait, what is, you know, because I knew this happens for a reason. I said, what's the message here? And it came to me that my dad was saying, it's okay. You can be as angry with me as you want. You can't hurt me. It's okay. You won't kill me with your anger, is what he was saying. Not like you won't hurt me, but we actually feel we can kill people with our anger. And so we take that guilt and we turn it inwards. And he was saying, let it out. Get it out. I'm not human anymore. It's okay. You know, let it out. Get rid of it. So, you know, I would say that about your dad. I don't know if you and your dad were friends or what he did, but I would say, yeah, keep crying for him and cry for yourself. I don't know, based on reading that, I'm willing to bet your dad probably wouldn't have wanted you to hold him and tell you you loved him. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you weren't seeing eye to eye, he probably wasn't open to that. So cry about it. Cry about the loss of not having the kind of relationship you want to have with him. and then allow yourself to be angry with him for all the things that you didn't get from him. And then release that. And then you'll be able to see him as he is, which he's just a soul. Like my dad now, I don't have any anger towards my dad now, especially when I think about him as a soul. You know, he's probably my friend. I'm willing to bet that he and I, when we're souls, are probably buddies. I can see us hanging out and having fun. And he had his role in my life, and he did what he was supposed to do. And so, you know, now I've worked through that, apparently. All right. T6C says, was Loki not tearful for Baldur because he knew Baldur was ready for a death and rebirth into his next evolution? No, I mean, I think that may be true, but I don't think that's not why. I think he wasn't tearful for Baldur because of why he said. He was, in that moment, he was in gratitude. When you are in gratitude for something, you don't mourn for it. He's saying, I really appreciate it. I still appreciate him. I think that's why. I think for me that makes sense, but it's a little too intellectual for me. I think he really meant basically what he said there. Lindsay Rogers, hello, True. Question. If I experience trance-like state and healing after my practice and after I close down, I want to make sure I understand that. Is this a sign I'm not grounding properly? So if you go into a trance-like state and it's healing to you, that's not a bad sign. So I don't know what you mean by a trance-like state. You know, the stuff that I teach, the celestial Chi Gong and the other stuff, is really stony stuff. I mean, so even after you've closed down, you're still going to feel kind of loopy. But if you feel good and you feel calm and you feel peaceful and happy, and then that's a pretty good sign that you're grounded. You know, this is why I do that before bed, because then you feel kind of cozy and you can just get into bed and you're sort of, your body's buzzing. That's why I do that. So I think if I'm understanding your question, it sounds like you are, and you're just enjoying the afterglow, right? But if I'm not understanding that and you're having discomfort and you're feeling things, you know, then that's a sign that, you know, something's up. So, all right. Gathered Minds question. How do you know when you are getting your soul back? Through a feeling in the body? I can't say that that would be wrong. You might have a feeling in your body, but I mean, there's so much in that question that I don't know yet. Why have you lost your soul? You know, you're asking me that question. I'm assuming you feel as though you've lost your soul. So why are you asking that? Now I'm going to want to know what you did. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions to find out how you became misaligned with yourself. So let me go back to, again, that's the thinking too much. You're thinking, you know, will I feel something? That sounds like the intellect. You know when you're in connection with your soul. You know, and you can still be in a lot of pain. And there's, you know, I've learned this too. There's one of the things I learned, I'll say this, is that there's all kinds of things that are super important that I find really super important. But the basic one that is most important is to be in what I call in alignment with my soul. And more accurately, in alignment with my integrity. The one thing, you know, there are places where you cannot be, you know, in your best thought process. You can maybe be kind of, you can be distracted from your soul purpose, but you can still have your integrity. But when you walk away from your integrity, that's when I feel like my soul, I'm really disconnected from my soul. You know, when you do something that you absolutely know is harmful to you or harmful to somebody else, and you do it anyway, that will take you out of your integrity. And that's a horrible place to be. So you can still be miserable, you can still be challenged, you can still be feeling crazy, you can still be sad, angry, hopeless, fearful, all that, and still be in your integrity. And it doesn't mean you've disconnected from your soul. So again, what you want is, you're looking for a feeling. And I'm saying you have to learn how to take action regardless of how you feel. And I'm not saying you shouldn't feel good. Ultimately, if you continue to take action, regardless of what your fears are telling you, as long as that action is taking you towards your soul purpose, then eventually you will get to a place where you can feel comfortable and happy, and the state of joy and bliss will be your normal state of being. I mean, when you get to complete bliss, you won't need to be in this body anymore, and you won't be here anymore. So there's always going to be ups and downs as long as you're in the body. But, you know, I wouldn't worry about, did I get my soul back or not? I mean, then that kind of intellectual head game isn't going to get you anywhere. Find out what your soul desire is and go after it, and it may take years before you start to feel normal. It may take a long time. So it's okay to feel messed up. So don't worry about that. Okay. No more questions there. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about last minute thing. We'll do, again, I'll do some ads here. Again, there's a missing dot there. Astrology.thunderwizard.com for those ads. Where are they? Okay, so I'll be back in a little bit, and then I'll talk to you about what the importance of resurrection is. Okay, so let's talk now about resurrection. Resurrection is part of the myth of the sun god traveling to the underworld. And of course, we already talked about that. We need to see that. We need the sun come back up, and we need to see the days get longer. And that is the symbol that our unconscious connects to, which gives us this feeling of being able to overcome. It's really about being able to overcome our unconscious. That's what it's all about. All these myths are about us learning how to overcome our unconscious. And I'm not saying that, you know, trying to minimize the meaning of the symbol. Your unconscious is enormous. Your unconscious is huge. Your unconscious has the power to keep you trapped. And if you want to get trapped in a matrix, you can get trapped in your unconscious for, you know, what you perceive to be thousands of years. You know, a really great movie that helps you understand what I'm talking about in terms of this, which also has to do with what happens when you go to the underworld, is, what is the name of that movie? It's a movie about the guys who do the dream stuff. Crap. If somebody can tell me the name of that movie, I'll be very happy. I forgot what it was. Anyway, but the unconscious is enormous. It's huge. So the symbol of the sun coming back, rising from the dead, the reason why it's such a powerful symbol for us is because it gives us hope on an unconscious level that we can overcome our unconscious issues, our past life issues, and that we can become God, which is what, you know, you take the myth of Jesus, and if it was a myth, it would have so much more power instead of trying to make it literal. You know, he dies and he's buried for 3 days. How many selves do we have? 1, 2, 3. So that would represent him, going through all of the three realms of the three selves. And then he's resurrected in this perfected body, and he can walk through walls, and he's God on earth, and he's a human being, and you can touch him, but at the same time, he can disappear and show up places and be this magical being. If it was a myth and we worshipped that myth, it would have far more power, because then it would represent that we could achieve that we can have that kind of mastery over time and space. And bottom line is, be happy. Forget about mastering time and space. We could be happy. We could be connected to our soul 100% of the time. That's what that represents. So obviously you see where I'm going with this. I think it's a mistake to try and take that literally. Now, there are people who have done that with the Baldur myth. There are certain sects of heathenism that pray for Baldur's return to his resurrection, or the second coming of Baldur, or something like that, and you're completely missing out. The assumption that he's stuck down there and that we need to free him, that's your projection again of yourself. You feel stuck, and you need somebody to come free you from your own unconscious hell. I mean that in the Christian sense, your unconscious torment. So I think that misses the boat. I do, again, for me, the symbolism is that we mourn the loss of feeling 100% connected to our soul all the time. We mourn the loss of being in the soul all the time. And this is what I think about now when I think about my partner who's passed on, that she's got to be very happy. She's got to be ecstatic, because she's in her soul now. She's living there, and I believe that I've received some information from her saying just that she's really stoked and happy and excited about being where she is, and that it's important to her that I remember that, and that she wants to give that information to me, that you were right. This is what's important, being connected to the soul. I get it now. That's what I feel coming from her. And so the idea of our physical self, representing the earth, and the soul being buried underneath the earth, it's not something we want to literally try and change. The point of it is to understand why we're here, why we've chosen to incarnate in these three-dimensional limited meat bags, and why we have been given the privilege and the opportunity to go through the struggles here, and to learn that while we're in this limited three-dimensional form, that we can still access that infinity and still do all the things that spirits are able to do. To be able to experience the bliss and the infinity of the soul, and to be able to craft our lives, and to be able to intend our reality. All the things that we see that spirits can do and gods can do, but humans can't. We are designed to be able to do that here. In fact, this whole human life is about putting limitation on us so that it will be even harder for us in our experience to achieve that. But then once we do, then when we're out of the physical body, we will be even that much more powerful as a spirit. And that's the whole point. The spirit doesn't want to stay human all the time. It says, no, how can I be more infinite and more powerful? And how can I know, let's make it harder. Let's create this three-dimensional matrix, if you will, and learn how to play the game and to break the rules. And I'm telling you that there's only one key. There's only one thing you need to know. The one commandment, which is to always follow the joy of your soul. Always do that. If you do that, regardless of how frightened you are, or how difficult it is, or how impossible it is, then you will be able to not only be happy, but you'll learn that you can, in fact, create your reality. So, that is my point for today. I think I'm kind of done with my preaching for the moment. I'll see if there are any questions here. Inception. Yeah, that's the movie. Inception. Go watch the movie Inception. And watch it with the understanding that the deeper they go, that's what happens when you leave this body and you go into the underworld. It is absolutely, what you're going into is your own unconscious. Your own unconscious isn't someplace in your brain here. Your unconscious is something altogether different. That's how you access it, with a part in your brain, but it's much bigger than that. My alarm is going off, and I bought this for 25 bucks. This is man jewelry, because I'm overcompensating now that I'm single, right? Showing people how manly I am with this enormous watch, and I don't even know how to turn the alarm off. So yeah, that's a great example of what happens, and that's why I want you to watch that, to understand that. Let's see, who was I talking to? Somebody was asking me, how long does it take, or when is this going to end? Like, you know, I've taken time off and I'm focused on myself and all that, and, you know, when is this going to end? I'm covering the watch because it's driving me crazy now. There we go. And I said, there is no time. Your unconscious doesn't know from time. So it's not like if I spend a month getting to know myself, or, you know, that's going to fix it. Maybe you can in a month learn, you know, what goes on, but it's not about time. Ghosts don't know what year it is. And ghosts are literally somebody's unconscious self that's been squeezed out and squished onto the material plane. Well, there are other kinds of ghosts, but that's the most common kind of ghost. It's your own unconscious, or somebody's unconscious has been squished around. It doesn't know what year it is. It's always doing the same thing. If you try and talk to it and tell it it's 2017, it'll get upset, because for that spirit it's still 1853, and they still have to find the buried treasure. They have to go find, you know, the black cowboy guy, I mean the evil cowboy that they got to go kill, or something like that, right? So the same thing is true when you exit your body. If you have things that you need to work through in the underworld, especially like you have guilt, you have self-directed guilt, you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into the underworld, and Hela will let you create your own Christian hell, let you create your torment. And if you need to punish yourself for 1,000 years or 10,000 years or 1,000,000 years, she'll slow time down enough so that you can have that experience. And it may only be a fraction of a second. Dreams are like that. Have you ever had a dream where you're watching TV and you fall asleep for like a split second, you have this entire dream, and you wake up and, you know, the person on the TV has only said 2 or 3 words? That, you know, time doesn't have the same effect on that level. Anyway, Thylacine says, question, do you believe in numerology? Yes, there are different kinds of numerology, so I'm not an expert in that. I keep seeing repeating patterns of numbers for years, 11, 11, and then a bunch of others. Could they be messages, or am I making too much out of it? Yes to both questions. They could be messages, and you could also be making too much out of it, and probably are. But having said that, again, you know, I like the number 11 in the numerology. I learned that meant infinity, but I'm the wrong guy to ask about numerology, so you have to ask somebody else. Okay, so looks like we're out of questions, and I'm out of stuff to say. So thank you all, my friends, for being here. So let me just give you the last minute steely bop doodads. So if you want to have an astrological reading from me where I can give you that one ritual, well, there's not just one, but I can give you one ritual that you can use that will help you optimize your unconscious, help you follow your true path, and overcome resistance, as somebody asked. Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I'll probably be changing my prices here fairly soon, which leads me into the next thing. I am getting a lot of astrology clients, so much so that it's taking away from my ability to work with my apprentices. And so I'm going to need some help. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm in the midst of recording some videos to create a Vedic Astrology Apprentice program, which is, I'm not teaching you all of astrology. I'm just going to be teaching you my method, and you'll know exactly how to do what I do when I give a reading. And there will be 2 levels of that. The first one will be just teaching you how to do that, and then you can either do that and learn it for yourself, or you can go and, you know, start your own thing if you want. I don't care. And then the second level will be to be certified by me, meaning that I have certified you, that I believe that you will be able to give somebody the level of accuracy that I would, you know, I'm putting my name on it. And so what I'll do is that when I have hit my capacity of readings, I'll take the overflow of that and I will farm them out to those whom I have you know, put my stamp of approval on, and then I'll take a small percentage and you guys can have the majority of that. So if you want that, if you're interested in that, email me at info@thundershamanism.com. 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 Some people can't spell thunder shamanism. I don't know why. And just put in the title there, Astrology Apprentice, and I'll put you in the list, and then I'll let you know when I'm ready to roll that out. So that's all, my friends. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming. I can feel it, man. There's a lot of big changes coming, and I feel like this path is going to take off. For those of you who want to study the shamanism that I teach, if you're new to the channel, I teach shamanism from the ground up, and I'll teach you a very practical, very workable, very in-depth form of shamanism that is a synthesis of multiple traditions that have an unbroken connection into prehistory, meaning they're not just something I made up. I'm synthesizing things that have been working for thousands of years from other places around the world, and I'm interpreting it in modern day language so you'll be able to understand it and apply it. Go to thunderwizard.com, sign up as a $25 apprentice, and you'll get access to all those videos. Just simply, once you've signed up, go to, you know, scroll to the bottom and keep clicking more until you get all the way to the bottom, and then start from there. And I take you step by step through all kinds of stuff, and I put on a new video just about once a week. So that's the best way to support the channel, by the way. The best way to support the channel is to sign up as a subscriber at thunderwizard.com, because, yeah, that comes to me every month, and I know what I'm getting, and that tells me how much time I have to spend doing stuff I don't want to do, and I can spend time doing stuff I do want to do, which includes this, what I'm doing right now. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll take one last look to see if there are any questions, and if not, then we will close up shop for today. And let me see here. Yep, I'm glad I looked, because my friend Emerson's Bike, Coffee and Rum Shop threw down $5 on the super chat. Thank you very much. And she asked, Sifu, what role does our personal mantra and Chi Gong play in the solstice? And what about Frigga's role in our lives? Is she the Virgin Mary? Okay. So the answer to the first question is, you know, it has the same, you know, the thing about solstices and new moons and eclipses and all those things, those are power points. Those are nexus points. So the role that the personal mantra and ritual that I give to you, as well as the Qigong, those are very powerful times to do that. In fact, you know, things like solstices and eclipses are, you know, times that teachers have said, you know, your mantra is 1,000 times more powerful on that day. So those are really good times to address your unconscious and to really overcome it. So the role is, those are great times to do it. If you can, always try and, you know, do your mantra and your ritual on those days. And Qigong the same way. What about Frigga's role in our lives? Is she the Virgin Mary? Well, I'm not a Catholic, so I can't tell you what the Virgin Mary was. I mean, of course, I know what she was according to the Christian myth. But is she the Virgin Mary? I would say no, because Frigga's not a virgin, for one thing. You know, the whole Mary thing and virginity and all that, that's a really important twist and vibe on all that. That separates us from her. To me, it gives, there's this, whenever somebody says the Virgin Mary and they're praying to the Virgin Mary, I feel this sense of guilt. I feel this, that's just me. I'm not trying to dump on anybody's deal or their religion. It's just, it doesn't do much for me, because I feel disconnected. I feel unworthy, because she's the virgin, she's so pure, and the baby Jesus, and you know, they're separate. They're not like us. They're different from us, and you know, and yet we are supposed to believe that they're literal people that existed, and it creates this distance that to me drives me away. Frigga is not a virgin. She is the mother. And she's, you know, she has a strong vibe with Frigga, for me, even though she's not Frigga. She has a strong vibe connected to that. And that is life affirming, and that makes me feel included. There's an inclusiveness in that kind of love. And as I said before, you know, Frigga mourns over the death of Baldur, but what she's really doing is she's mourning over the loss of us. When we leave the celestial realms, when we are souls in between bodies, we are in the celestial realms, and we're running around in this infinity, and we're one with Mother Frigga. She mourns the loss of us when we incarnate, because she misses us. And the point is that I'm trying to make is that this is how important you are. You are so important that when you chose to incarnate, the Queen of the Universe wept. She, you know, if we follow the logic of the myth, she would rather have you all to herself than to let you incarnate. Of course, as your mother, she's going to let you incarnate. She wants to do that, but she's so happy to see you, but she misses you terribly. You're the most important being in the universe. That's what I get from that. See, the whole Virgin Mary and Jesus thing makes me feel like a... And to me, that's a whole different vibe. But that's just my take. I know not everybody has that experience. That's my experience. So I hope I answered your question there. Looking for the questions. Oh, so Mother Mary appeared to you. See, again, don't let me ruin your, don't let me harsh your buzz. Well, yeah, looking at Mistletoe getting upset, then that's Frigga. Frigga's the one that she puts the mistletoe up and created that so that we would remember Baldur's death. And that this is the one thing that I wanted to say that I didn't get to say, so I'm gonna end up with this. Hodur's name is ignorance. And, it's interesting that, during the Yuletide period, Mother Frigga wants us to remember Baldur and to show our remembrance of Baldur by showing love, by kissing under the mistletoe. I told you earlier about the Scandinavian custom that I just read today, that if two guys are fighting in the forest, and they're trying to kill each other and they happen to be underneath mistletoe, they have to put their weapons down and they can't fight for a day. And the idea is that during that 24-hour period, they're going to be thinking about Baldur and the mistletoe, and that Frigga is like, boys, please stop. Please stop. Just love each other. Don't fight. Just love each other. You can work out your differences. You don't have to kill each other. And I think about all the stuff that's going on, nowadays, all the racial crap that's going on, all the racism, all the just the horrible crap that's going on. It has been going on for a long time, and it's hurtful for me when I see that. And when I see stuff like that, I get angry, but understand that that's just me being a testosterone-filled male. Underneath that anger is a lot of sadness. It makes me really sad. Mother Frigga doesn't have that, so she weeps. She says, love each other, please. Everybody is your family. Everybody is your brother. Everybody is Baldur. Whenever you look at another human being, they have a soul underneath that skin sack that they're wearing. And that soul is Baldur. It's the most beautiful thing in the universe. It may not be expressing itself, as ideally as we'd like, because it's coming through the filter of whatever their skin sack is that they're wearing. But that's Baldur in there. Love that. And if we can focus on that, we will make Mother Frigga happy. So I can understand why you were in tears when you saw Mistletoe, because Mistletoe should bring up that bittersweet sadness of thinking about how we can create bonds of love instead of bonds of hatred and division. So that's what I think it's all about. I think that's the whole point of the Mistletoe thing. Okay, so all right, thank you. And then Carolyn McKenzie, thank you. She gave me a little gift there with the super chat. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. That's always appreciated. Okay, so that's it for me, unless there's a last minute question that wants to come in. I think I've given my spiel on where to go and what to do and how to support the channel. So that is all for me today, my friends. So until next time, when will be next time? I don't know. If I get an inspiration, maybe this weekend. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time I come onto the channel. Thank you so much, my brothers, my sisters, my mothers, my fathers, my cousins, my friends, whoever you are. Just know that I, like everybody else, am limited, but I'm doing the best to understand that you are Baldur. And may we at least take a little bit of time through this holiday season and try and do that. I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to try and, I don't always do it very well, but I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to try and go out in the world, and when I go get my groceries or my coffee, actually I don't drink coffee, but my groceries or whatever the heck that is, that I'm going to look at people and I'm going to see Baldur. And I'm going to wish them all the best and see if I can transmit Mother Frigga's love to them. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you all very soon. Where do I want to go? I think I want to go here. Okay, see you guys later.